We've always felt stuck in fear. We've always felt like we should be here. We want to get to here, but our fear is keeping us here. It's stopping us from getting anywhere above here. And we don't have to live that way. There are ways that we can uh, break through that. My name is Taven, and I'm currently using this YouTube channel to bring people closer to Christ and help them live a life filled with purpose and joy. And one of the biggest issues I've had, one of the biggest struggles I've been having lately is life changes. And I recently turned 18 a few months ago, and it's been a point where I've had to face a lot of my fears through that, and have had a lot of anxieties about what's going to happen in the future. What am I going to be doing for a job? Who am I going to get married to? Uh, how am I going to raise a family? How am I going to get the finances for it? But I believe that through these past few weeks, I have been feeling this way. I have grown quite a bit in overcoming those fears and anxieties. So I would like to share a story that I had a few years ago, and it was when I first started evangelizing and talking to people about Jesus. And it was in a laundromat, and it was during a 2 week long summer camp where we would go for a week to learn about Jesus, and then the second week we would go to evangelize and have do ministry. The first time I went, I refused to actually talk to any strangers. I was fearful over it, and I allowed my fear to control me and not allow me to actually talk to people. I went a second time, and it was there that I was talking with a friend. We were in a laundromat. We had just gotten done with a lesson on sharing the gospel and sharing Jesus with other people. And we were having a conversation about that lesson. And we were talking about how we actually wanted to use that this time around. I was still really fearful about it. I was still very scared about it. But my friend, he goes into the bathroom for a little bit. And while he's in there, I realize I have someone else that I'm sitting next to as well. And I'm sitting there thinking about, okay, I want to start talking to people about Jesus. I want to talk to strangers about it. And as soon as I think about, oh, I can talk to this guy, I feel all my fears and anxieties just cover me. I was covered in it. I was thinking about, okay, what if he thinks I'm weird? What if he doesn't want to talk to me at all? What if he thinks I'm just some crazy person? But it was there that I first learned to just push that fear away. Remember, you can feel fear and still do that task. You can feel fear and still talk to that person. And I it led to an experience where I got to meet another missionary because he turned out to be a missionary with us. I was able to meet him, and he was doing something a lot like us where he was with a group of people and he was doing the same thing as us. And I was able to learn a lot from him and his experiences in life. So there's two things that I've been going through that have helped me learn a lot about overcoming fear and anxiety. The first one is Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a book that I've been reading through. I'm not finished with it yet, so maybe I'll have even more things I can talk about in the future. But I've read a big, decent part of it. And what it talks about is using our visualization, our imaginations to help us in life and to help us live a happier and better life. And one of the things that they talk about a lot is using a positive mindset and imagining the positive outcome instead of a failure outcome. I want to talk a little bit more about that when I go through our 4 steps to overcome fear. But then the other one is believing in Jesus and trusting in Him that He is going to have the full control over what I do. He's going to be with me through it, He's going to help guide me through it. And it brings a lot of peace knowing that. So, I'm going to go over the 4 steps that have helped me. Number one is visualizing that positive outcome. I got into that a little bit while talking about the book, but it is to create a vivid mental picture in your mind of the positive outcome that's going to happen instead of dwelling on fears and the failure outcome. Instead of dwelling on, okay, this is how I'm going to fail. This is how I'm going to screw everything up. This is how I'm going to mess up. Instead, you're going to think of, okay, if this could go positively, how would it be? And just imagine in your mind, it's a vivid mental picture. I remember in the book it talks about trying to make it as clear as possible, remembering like what the smell would be in the room. I'm just going to talk if it's a job interview. So you're in there, you're in the office, you imagine what the office is going to look like, and the interviewer in front of you, and you're going to imagine what he says, what you say, in the same way you would say it, in the same voice that you would say it, using the words that you would say in the perfect outcome, the positive outcome. And then, obviously, when you're actually there, it's not going to go exactly as you do. You can't predict exactly what your interviewer is going to say, but you have an idea of how it's going to go. You have an idea of if it's going to be a good outcome. How is that going to go? How is it going to look? And it helps prepare your mind for success. Of course, I would also say have the failure in mind too, but don't dwell on it. Don't focus so much on it. Have an idea of, okay, if I fail, what am I going to do? Don't allow it to be, okay, I'm going to screw up, I'm going to screw up. You say, okay, if I mess up, if I fail at this, what am I going to do afterwards? What job am I going to do after this? Where am I going to start looking? You don't look at it like you're a failure. You look at it, okay, if I do fail, what am I going to do after that? Okay, and then number 2 is prayer. It's one of the most important things you could be doing in your life, and one of the most powerful things. But what it is you talk directly to God. You can do it in your room. You can do it anywhere, and just talk with God and spend time reflecting on how you feel and the emotions that you have. Bring them up to God. How you feel fearful, bring up those fears to Him and allow Him to take it, give it up to Him. And I believe that it gives me a lot of peace whenever I pray and talk about it with Him. Number 3, I would say also is just taking small steps to build more confidence. Let's use talking to people, talking to strangers, for example. We could start with each time, if you could be walking through the street and you just say hi to a person, just greet some people while you're walking through. And then when you start feeling more comfortable with it, you could build it up to complimenting them, complimenting on them on their clothes, complimenting them on their style, just whatever like compliments come to your mind. And then as you're building more confidence with that, then you go into the more conversations. You can start conversations with people. You can start those conversations up. And then you have more confidence in it. You have built yourself up. You've started realizing, okay, I'm not failing at just greeting people. Let's start complimenting them. Okay, now people are taking compliments well. Let's start conversations with people. It could be small conversations. It could just be like, oh, do you know the directions to this place? And then you can build it up to more higher quality conversations after that. And then number four is having faith that God has a plan for you. Reinforce the idea that having faith in Christ brings peace and direction. And when you realize that God has a plan for you, that God isn't just going to abandon you, God will not abandon you. And when you have that realization that no matter what you go through, God is going to be there with you. He's always going to be with you. He's always got a plan for you. And when you realize that, it gives you so much more peace with life, and it helps alleviate fears about the future. So, I would just like to really encourage you that fear doesn't have to control you. I brought up earlier that courage, the definition of courage is feeling fear, but not allowing it to stop you from that task. You feel that fear, but you still do it anyways. And you don't have to allow it to control you. You can push back that fear. You can feel that fear and still do it. So, those are the four things that have helped me with overcoming my fear. And I would like to see in the comments if you would, maybe in like the next 2 weeks or after whatever you may have been watching this video for, and maybe after this thing that's happened, how did you overcome it, or maybe how did you not overcome it? Is there something that I brought up that I could have brought up better? Is there something that I brought up that did not work? I'd like to hear from you, even if it is something negative. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye.